Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, Tom here, and today is Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. We've made it through 2 months of 2024, and really the markets haven't done much, and we'll talk all about that today. But we want to let you guys know a few things. We read all your comments, whether they're on social media, YouTube, wherever it may be. So we've been seeing a lot of people talking about the app regarding some map problems, some metal problems. Please know that we saw them, we worked on them, they should be fixed. We re-released an Android version the other day, and the online version's always working. So if you ever do have a problem with the app itself, please let us know. But you can also get all that same information right on iScrapApp.com. This way you can learn what's going on with the metal markets, ups, downs, etc., and we'll kind of go from there. I'm gonna jump off and start with catalytic converter pricing. And it's been really funny because we've seen catalytic converter prices really have such a downfall the last couple of years. But when I look at the national catalytic converter prices right now, we're averaging around $70. And if we could click on that national catalytic converter average, we'll go through and look at some of these. We see a $70 average, but let's just take a spotlight on some of these other ones. Big price ranges from rrcats.com, but there's also large variations. So when you look at something like a torpedo cat from $110 to over $1,100, that's just because there are so many different types of torpedoes. They have different amount of biscuits inside of them. They have different material recovery. So those are things to be looking for. One thing we have seen, the foreign-made catalytic converters have actually had a little better pricing than some of the domestic ones on an overall average. You can see some of the XL large foreigns at the top here, ranging from 67 to 304 between large and XL. And if you get down to the domestic versions, you can see 18 to 132, 15 to 450. And a lot of these have really big ranges, again, because they can be so they look so similar to other ones. Flow cats, for instance. Flow cats generally have the word flow on them. Well, you could have really low grade versions that might come off like a Silverado, right? But you could also have really high grade versions that look exactly the same. And that's why those serial numbers are so important. So when you get the serial numbers and you get those quotes over to rrcats.com, our team will hold your price for 10 business days, right? Which is really over almost 2 weeks. We have free shipping and we're waiving PayPal fees over $200 in transactions. So just gives you a bunch of pluses right now. But if we could pull that price list up one more time, just to spotlight some of the other metals, some of the other cats, of course, the pre-cats, whether it's domestic or foreign ones, are going to be lower graded. The bread loaves have gotten a little stronger as we've seen some of the palladium prices finally jumping over $1,000 an ounce. So we're hoping to see some of these markets showing improvement. I would tell you to hold on to your catalytic converters if you can afford to hold them right now. I know that's probably like a weird business thing where I'm trying to buy cats at rrcats.com, but I also try to give you honest feedback. In the catalytic converter market, while it has recovered a little bit, right, I still think that our upside really is a bigger up than we have right now. When I look at precious metal prices and I look at platinum, palladium, gold, silver, things like that, I'm seeing these markets starting to go up. But when I kind of switch lanes here and I talk about gold prices, we've seen gold having all-time record highs at over $2,140 per ounce. I mean, just week over week, gold is up a little over 1%. In the last month, we're up about 4%. Why do I talk about that? Well, the platinum, the rhodium, the palladium markets, which go to catalytic converters, right? Investors are also looking for safe havens for money right now. Gold, as we can show you on the screen in just a second, is trading right now during this recording at $2,152. Again, all-time record highs. Virginia, if you could just click on the max button a little underneath just to show everyone, we're looking at all-time record highs. And of course, inflation is not factored in here, so you can't count prices from the 1980s the same as today, but as a number, right? The number 2,152, this moment that I'm recording this is an all-time record high for gold prices. So that's going to flow into some of your electronic scrap and some of the pricing there on things like memory, CPU chips, and motherboards. So gold prices going up is due to a couple of reasons, and I'll briefly talk about them, and I'll get back to our more of our ABCs of scrap that we generally talk about weekly. Right now, investors are looking for places to put money into. And what we've seen over the last few years is the amount of money that was printed from COVID, from the stimulus plans, from some of these different things that the government has done. We've just seen a massive amount of money flood the market. So now people are buying things outside of real estate, outside of investments, outside of Bitcoin and stuff like that, right? So they're buying gold because there's a chance that the inflationary period that we're in doesn't go anywhere for a while, which means gold prices can continue to uptick. On top of that, they're talking about not cutting the interest rates for a while because we're still seeing those higher inflation numbers, and all of those things lead to gold prices going up, lead to overall commodities being a bit of a standstill, and that's kind of where we are today. So let's go back to our grassroots here, our ABCs of scrap, aluminum, brasses, coppers, and steel. We'll start with the aluminum markets. Aluminum month over month is really relatively flat. Week over week, I saw an increase a little over 1%, but the buying numbers are not reflecting that. So when I look at some of the aluminum prices, you're not going to see much market movement on things like sheet aluminum, cast aluminum, aluminum turnings, and other grades of aluminum. But what we have seen over the last month is a very solid set of prices. And we've seen you talking a lot about these aluminum markets online. A lot of the mentions this week in the social media was talking about the difference between cast aluminum and sheet aluminum. And of course, on our YouTube page, we have made all types of videos that talk about the differences in the different grades of aluminum, how to uptick your aluminum to make more money in it, how to process it versus not processing it. But aluminum cast and aluminum sheet in that 42 to 47 cent range right now. But we're seeing the trading numbers for aluminum really relatively flat over the last month. In the first week of every month on Wednesdays, the first Wednesday of every month, just about, I go through and I do different prices for larger customers where we lock them in for the month. And it's been funny, 3 months in a row, my pricing on aluminum has only changed no more than 3 cents per pound, either up or down. And that could be 1 penny up 1 month and 2 pennies down the next, not up 3 and down 3. So just 3 cent range, just showing you 3 months into the year. I know it's not a full 3 months, but for my pricing, it is. We've seen a very steady aluminum market. Why? Well, we're starting to see pullbacks in different places. Electric vehicle sales drastically going down. Why is that important? Well, a lot of electric vehicles are using more aluminum in them to lighten up the bodies and to be able to keep that battery pack from overweighing the car. So we have seen a decreased demand on that side of things. We also just haven't seen a large consumer demand on really anything right now. You're not seeing things flying off the shelves unless it's like a Stanley tumbler cup or something like that, right? You're not seeing a lack of product on the markets. If you want something, you can buy it, which means there's probably either the right supply or an oversupply of things right now. Outside of ordering like large trucks, you really are, if you order something, you're getting it. The supply markets seem to have fully recovered. And that's why a lot of these metal prices have really kind of leveled themselves out. The 3 or 4 years of instability that we saw in the markets has quickly dissipated, and we've seen a stabilization. We've seen oil and gas prices stable. I mean, look at the prices for the last month. They've really been relatively stable. I do hear rumblings that going into the summer, we're going to start to see some of these prices upticking, but that's the same story every year going into Memorial Day because of the heavier commuting and the heavier vacationing that happens June through August when kids are out of school. But those prices will affect the market, the gas and oil prices, of course, and we'll talk about those. I'll talk about the brass markets right now. Yellow brass, we've seen priced out. If we could pull up some averages, we've seen some yellow brass numbers around $1.90 right now. We have seen some higher pricing. $1.97 looks to be the national average right now. If we could just click on that first brass number, we can show where we're at right now. We have seen brass prices 198 for yellow brass. Here on the right hand side, you can see 221, 192, 230, 202. I believe my yard is paying 210 right now. So right in that same kind of range, and this is how easy it is to report these prices. You can just go on there, update these prices, 210 per pound, and then you just boom, submit it. And just like that, you can refresh the page and you'll be able to see your price updated wherever you are. So if you have a price and you're at the yard, you can update it really quickly, just as simple as that. And the green check mark there just is a verified, preferred premium scrap yard. So, that you just know that scrap yard is a little more on top of things than some of the other ones. But yellow brass, because copper prices have been relatively stable, that brass and zinc, that copper and zinc price, when they kind of marry themselves together, they become, brass. We've seen a stable market, which is really good too. So brass prices for both red brass, which is bronze, and yellow brass, the same brass or bronze we can see here. Little older prices. We're going to discredit this. Some of the markets are really more. Rockaway Recycling is paying $245 right now for red brass. So, higher prices because there's more copper content. And again, if you're looking, you're listening to me right now, Tom, how do I know the difference between yellow and red brass? And I would tell you, while you're on the YouTube page, go to our list of videos and just do a little search for yellow versus red brass or something like that, because we have that information on there. We've made lots of videos, lots of different blogs for you to be able to learn the differences between red brass and yellow brass, because it is so important to know the largest upgradable markets that you can have. Here you can see just a video we made a couple of years ago talking about yellow versus red brass. We have different types of pipe. We have different things. But again, we're not going to go and watch this whole video, but these are secrets that you can learn about that we've openly talked about on YouTube, so you can learn how to make more money. Faucets, how to clean them, all these type of things we've done to be able to show you how to make more money with your scrap. And these are free resources on YouTube. So please check these things out, learn about them, see where the markets are. This way you can kind of push yourself forward. Next up, copper. Copper prices week over week up less than 1%. So last week we were around 386 trading. Today we're around 386 trading again. If we click on Bear Bright, kind of our bellwether of the copper world, averaging right now 315 a pound. My yard is paying 340 a pound right now, and you can see some other prices online at 320, 315, 285. And a lot of people are going to ask the 340. A lot of people are going to ask the question, hey, how come there's such a large range in some of these copper prices? You can see on here anywhere as low as 250 and as high as 340. That's a 90-cent range. Well, there's lots of different reasons, and we've talked about many of these before. The size of the yard, does that yard move a lot of copper, or do they only move a few thousand pounds of copper? My yard generally is a little larger than some other non-ferrous operations. That's why our prices are improved. We also have different loss leaders where we use them, to get other materials in, such as wire and things like that. But copper prices, even, week over week, month over month, about even also. I don't expect to see large increased demands. Again, go back to what I was talking about just a few minutes ago. The aluminum markets haven't had an increased demand. The steel markets, we'll talk about in a minute, they've had a decreased demand and an oversupply. So we're seeing some of these markets moving in a way that is just kind of getting themselves along. And there could be lots of reasons or logic behind it. It could be people are thinking about the election. We're 8 months away. I think 8 months from yesterday is when the presidential election, and that's going to have a really big impact on what happens with these markets and the commercial growth over the next 4 years. That last year of a president's term going into the election generally is a little wishy-washy because you can't push through large legislations, especially with different split Congresses and Senates right now. So we look at these things and say, okay, where the market's going to go next year? And I don't think we're going to really know that until we can figure out where things are. But right now, copper price is steady week over week, which is great. Last but not least, out of our basic ABCs, that S for steel. And steel prices have started to decrease, and you will start to see these markets turning downwards this week, if not sooner. If you look at some of these prices just in the last week and a half, varying from 175 to 200, averaging out at 170 per ton, I do expect these prices to be down $10 to $20 per ton within a month, these national averages. Why will it take that long? Well, some scrap yards lock in 3,000 tons of pricing at a time, 10,000 tons of pricing at a time. So it just might take a little longer for their markets to start to decrease. But we are seeing the markets weakening. Again, overseas demand is not there. We're also continuing to see problems in that Middle East area. Boats are not going through the Red Sea as freely. They're now going down and around Africa, causing extra time on the water. India, while they're having large improvements and developments that we're starting to read about, and me personally, I'm excited about, because we need a country like India to really bring their people from kind of the impoverished levels that they're at into a more technological age with upgraded electric utilities, etc., which is what China did mostly in the 1970s through the 1990s. One of the reasons we saw such a movement on the copper side of things for so many years. But steel prices, we haven't seen that movement. We're hoping that India will take the baton from the Chinese and push that forward for the next 10 years. But I don't think that we're going to see a large increased demand for steel, a large price increase this year. Oil, gas, presidential elections, interest rates, everything that I've talked about so far will contribute to a lot of these prices really having a bit of a downward pressure. Last but not least, I didn't mention this in the weekly report, but let's add an extra S to the ABCs, and we'll talk about stainless for a second. Stainless markets are starting to see very small signs of improvement. Nickel prices, which bottomed out around $16,000 per ton, have now revived themselves to around $17,500 per ton. Week over week, we've seen a 3.6% increase in nickel prices, and we are going to start to see an increased price on stainless. We currently saw the 304 average around 30 cents, but if you look, there are some prices there that show 40 cents a pound, 35 cents a pound. So we are starting to get an increased demand. Rockaway Recycling, what was our price just now?
31 cents.
We're at 31 cents. So our local demand, we generally sell directly to Pittsburgh. But, they just have taken out a lot of orders because there was so much supply that people were sitting on. We have at least started to see those stainless prices increasing. Hopefully that will continue. I've read a couple of positive articles talking about batteries and how they're incorporating more nickel into them. So that could show the stainless market increasing. I also read an article last week about a couple of different countries that are really just flooding the market with nickel, which that just might hurt the markets overall. We might see a decrease as stainless starts to get flooded into the markets, but we'll continue to follow that and report on that in the coming weeks and months as we learn more. So scrappers, here we are, Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. We hope that you're doing well. Don't forget, it is spring cleanup season. I know some areas of the country got hammered with snow, but out here in New Jersey, we've been enjoying 55, 60 degrees, and all the snow's melted away. I'm starting to see those grills on the sidewalk. I'm starting to see those spring cleanups of old sheds and snow blowers making their way down to the curb. So check out some of our videos on how to upgrade some of those curbside finds, and let us know what you're doing on social media. So until next week, scrappers, this is Tom, and I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for watching our video. For $2.99 a month, by becoming a member, you can get access to early videos, member-only videos, merchandise discounts from our store, and priority comments that we answer before answering any other scrappers. Click the link below to learn more. Until next time, scrap you later.